I'm back with this Dell XPS 8960. Originally this PC came with a 13th gen i7 non-K CPU, and I ended up replacing with the i9 14th gen 14900K CPU. I'm ready to tell you a couple of things right off the bat. There was absolutely no issue to replace the CPU. The PC was already running in the latest BIOS or firmware, and just moving the old CPU out, putting the new CPU in, worked great. I ended up using all three options again just to be on a safe side in case you're following my upgrade path and not buying a 14900 i9 CPU out with this PC right off the bat. We're going to talk about that as well. But as the beginning, I have to tell you that the performance gain from what we had originally here, that 13th gen i7 going to the i9 14th gen, resulted somewhere between 10 to 45%. It's a huge increase, and it's all measured and benchmarked with this original pancake style cooler, which is called Dell Standard Air Cooler. In a previous video, we saw with the 13th gen CPU that between this CPU or any of these two, the performance gain when we're switching out this original standard to either the Dell Advanced Tower Cooler or to the Dell Liquid Cooler, the performance gain is only between 2% to 8%, but a general average hovers around 6%, so it's not great. So as you can see, there is not a huge difference coming from here to any of these. And what's the performance difference between the two? As also we could see in the previous video, they are completely head-to-head. Sometimes the tower cooler is 1% faster, other cases the pump is about 1% faster. Noise-wise, the pump had a little bit of advantage because in general it creates a significantly quieter environment. However, some of us are annoyed by the constant pump sound, and other of us are preferring the tower cooler, which is also a set to forget option versus the pump. It really comes down to your personal preference. Do you think the pump gonna fail at one point? Funny question, we'll get into that. Or do you think the tower cooler is gonna last 6 to 8, 10, maybe 10 years without touching it? Pretty possible. The fan can also be noisy, can have some extra noise which not supposed to be there. Some of you complaining about the fan is getting loud and just rattling, and you are replacing with the pump. Some of you who has a pump and a pump already failed, or have some really whining or loud clicking sound, replacing with a tower cooler. I'm here to tell you that even with the 14th gen i9K CPU, there is absolutely no difference between the two. This is a 125 watt mini system. A lot of people in a comment section, when it comes down to, oh, I just bought an XPS, a Dell Precision Workstation Tower, or a Dell Optiplex, and it came with this. Quick to point out that you have to have the advanced tower cooler to have the best performance out of the PC. But the even better option is the pump. I don't think some of you are even realizing that this is a mini system, 125 watt. I couldn't find anything at Dell.com which would explain the specification on this. It has to be the same thing, because with the 14th gen i9 there are no performance difference. Sometimes the pump is 1% faster, other times the air cooler is 1% faster. So just like with the previous video, we can put this debate to rest finally. There are no performance difference. It's going to come down to your personal preference. Do you like the tower cooler? Do you like the pump? And that's it. And that debate is settled. From my end, I ran 250 rounds of benchmarks. Obviously not all of them Cinebench, single core, multi-core. Sometimes single core takes 10 minutes, the multi-core takes 10 minutes, and sometimes I'm also running the GPU test in the same time, so that's 30 minutes, and it's usually just as counted as one round. Obviously some of the tests only runs for 2 minutes, but running the 250 rounds of tests took a long time. If you could help me out with a like, and maybe considering subscribe, I would really appreciate it. I put so much time and effort in making this video. So just to have a perspective, what can you expect to have a 13th gen CPU in a Dell ecosystem and switching out to a 14 or going with a 14 generation of i9 CPU. Is there any pros and cons? And there is a lot. We're gonna dive into that. Let's look at the charts. Let's take some time and observe what we're seeing in here. This is, I ended up still going. I said I'm not going to, but I ended up doing it, because if you go to Dell.com and if you spec out a 14 Gen i9 CPU, you still gonna have this standard air cooler as your basic system. When you switch to the K CPU, the tower cooler gonna be your option as default, and for a $50 upcharge you're going to be able to switch to the pump. If you're thinking about performance, there's no performance difference between the two, and coming from here to here, any of these going to give you a 2 to 10% increase in performance, and that's pretty much it. And it's only going to happen in a multi-core and a test environment or more multi-core applications. Very close, and this pretty much sound the alarm bell for me. How come that with a 14 Gen i9 CPU with this super basic cooler, it's an aluminum cooler, round shape, it's not even covering the full surface of the CPU. As you can see, the tower cooler, the cold plate, this is copper with copper pipes, and it's covering the whole entire size of the CPU. Same thing with the pump in here. As you can see, I left the thermal grease on it, so you can compare that with this option. We're not even covering the whole entire surface of the CPU, and I can tell you right off the bat, I'm gonna move this kind of out of the way so we're gonna have more space what about to come, and show you that I don't think any of these options are really good if you want to take out the best performance out of the 14th generation of i9. Just to remind you, this would be kind of a baseline what we are putting in a system like this with the Gen 14 i9 CPU or any i9 CPU 12, 13, because this is twice of the size. It's a 240 millimeter system versus 120. Can you put something else into this case? Yes and no. So first of all, I stayed inside the Dell ecosystem. I only use Dell parts. These are all the official Dell options if you have the XPS or you have a tower, Optiplex tower, or the Precision workstation. And the reason why this is not my PC, a customer of mine purchased this PC, happy as it is. He's not somebody who's going to modify parts. He's not even swapping fans or a coolant system out. This is a perfectly good system for this particular customer because it's not tech savvy. It's happy what it is. The case is not too big. It doesn't look like a custom gaming PC. There is no RGB lights in here. It's going to be more like a very settled down home environment or office environment when he doesn't want to have anything sticking out. No bulky case, none of that. And this is what you're going to get. And it's awesome because at least you have three options, and it's great. And if you're somebody who wants to get every single bit of performance out of the CPU, this is probably not for you unless you're willing to modify this system. And Dell designed this system extremely well, and some of the stuff which in counts as a drawback or as a limitation has a really good reason. And I spent so much time with this PC, and I love most of the stuff. I have to admit that if you want to again push this CPU to its max, these coolant options are not good enough. They're not going to give you the best result. With the i9 14 generation of CPU, the K CPU, the overclocking doesn't even work for me. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you. What do I mean, Scott? I mean, with the K CPU, I was able to get to the BIOS and I was able to change the overclocking from disabled to be enabled. And there is only one option. It's called level 1 overclocking. This doesn't give me any kind of information what's going to happen, what's going to change, what value going to change, and I can enable that. It doesn't yield with any kind of performance gain, which makes sense because with the third-party cooler, we can push our CPU significantly further down on our road. How far? With a single-core application, not that far, but with the multi-core applications, I can see a 20 to 40% increase if we are ditching the Dell options and going with a third party. So what's the third party would be? The third party would be something like this. And previously I thought you put this Dell liquid cooling system in here, it takes minutes. So one of the advantage from my point of view as a technician going with a Dell machine, it's tested by engineers. They spent a ton of time to figuring out how can you swap some parts out and still stay in a range when this thing is so solid. I cannot tip this over. I was unable to make the computer blue screen or crash or any of that because it's solid, but it comes with a price. It will throttle everything to the point when it doesn't matter which options you have as regards of cooling, it's going to be quiet. Maybe the fan will spin up on a tower cooler to one time, then the throttling comes and cuts it off and it's quiet. The pump is significantly louder now with the i9. Like with the i7, I had maybe 33, 34 decibel with the pump. Now we are 40, 45. We are pushing it. It's a constant sound now. If I put this system under the desk, I don't hear it. My AC is running in this home studio. Wintertime, it's a heating. There's a filter in a system, so it's always pushing air through it. And I don't hear it. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm not gonna hear any kind of accessible noise coming out of this PC for a long amount of time, unless I'm gonna go with the Extreme Tuner software, which I was able to push the fan to its max, and I was able to do some overclocking, which resulted some inviewable performance gain, but to the point when I was bothered by the sound of the fan, and I just shut it down and went back to automatic overclocking, which is exactly the same as the Dell BIOS overclocking. Nothing. It resolves with absolutely nothing in my case. Well, could this be because of my parts are different? Yes, even in when a manufacturer is putting out its specs and everything, the line of the performance and all the specs and everything has to be a solid line, there is still going to be maybe one part is 5% better compared to the very same part came off just from the same manufacturing line a minute before, could be 5% slower. So that could be a 10% difference, and it's huge. Could be in my home studio, maybe my temperature in here is 2 or 3 degrees Celsius higher, and maybe this just enough for the Dell stuff or the Intel Auto tuner to not functional at all. Or maybe my CPU is maybe 2 or 3 Celsius degree higher than it's yours, so you might gonna see some difference, but not gonna see a huge difference for sure. So let me tell you what gives me the huge difference. Before we do that, so let's talk about the Dell ecosystem. As a lot of you pointed out that this is problematic because when you're looking at the bracket or the options to mount the CPU cooler, you only have these options because these posts are non-removable. If you're looking at the backside of this PC, this backside cover is not removable, which is a problem in a lot of cases. If you do something with a computer way more than it's was designed to, because these posts in here, these studs, whatever the cooler or a bracket, a CPU cooler bracket attached to, is non-removable. It is sitting on the backside of this backplate, which is non-removable, and it is a problem because in a third-party PC or custom-built PC, I can put my own bracket behind the motherboard because I can remove my back cover, and it's great. But you know why is it great in here? Because any of these Dell original coolant options are replaceable or swappable in less than a minute. Like, I don't have to worry about take this back cover off and holding either 4 bolts in the same time or 1 bolt at a time, or a whole backplate with the 4 bolts going through from behind the motherboard, and then try to put the washer, the spacer, and all that stuff in it, because it's all fixed. So I don't have to do any of that. All I have to do is I need a long screwdriver, and between these coolers, I can swap any of them out with any of them in less than a minute, which is awesome. And I don't have to use even 2 hands. So when it comes down to this PC, yes, it's a disadvantage. It's not easily modifiable, not to mention this weird shaped power supply in here, which is not a standard size power supply. I'm pretty sure you can get a third-party power supply in here, but your best bet is going with Dell. Originally, I got the 460 watt power supply with the RTX 4060 Ti and the i9-14900K CPU. I ran into no issues. At first I was afraid. I removed the RTX from the system just to make sure that this 460 watt power supply will be able to give me all the power I need for the RTX and for the new CPU, and I had no problem whatsoever. So eventually I ended up putting the RTX back in and use the computer that way, not just running through all these benchmarks, and it worked great. So if you have the original power supply, the low end, not a 750, not a 1000 watt, this system still works. If you have a better video card than a 4060 Ti, with this i9-14900K CPU, then you're probably going to need a larger power supply. But as it is, again, overclocking didn't yield with any result. So my favorite part of this PC, and this is obviously not a sponsored video, I'm a tech, I work on site most of the time. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this well-designed system. Let's see what we can do in here in just minutes. So let me show you what happens if we are trying to get access to places to do potential upgrades. So everything just with a single hand slides in and out. Very, very user-friendly system. As you can see, as we open up a front, we definitely have now enough space for a 240 millimeter water cooling system in the front. We still have this fan to be removed. This hard drive we probably have to remove, I'm not sure, but just for fun, let's do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this single screw out in here. Normally you have a custom case, obviously you're gonna have 4 screws to take a fan out. You're gonna use 2 hands. I'm just gonna use a single arm in here, pulling it off, and the fan is out. And as you can see, things are opening. Like removing a hard drive from this PC, so all I have to do is squeeze these blue tabs and it slides out. Let's see how much effort would it take to remove this bracket. So in here, I'm gonna have 2 screws. I'm gonna take these out carefully. I'm trying to not lose them. They are standard screws, however. There is a button on the bottom of this bracket. All I have to do is press this button and the caddy just slides out and it's out. I really appreciate all these engineerings. Now obviously when you see this, we have some trouble in here because the front panel is, for example, not a single panel, it's attached to the front. So if you replace a motherboard, if you venture into that, which is probably not easy at all, even if it's doable, you're gonna lose the front panel right off the bat. So if you're somebody who wants to modify this system to the point, this is not your option. I would not do that. If you're somebody like my client who just want to have a small size PC with a solid performance and reliable as it is, I don't see this PC failing in the next 5, 6, 8 years. We have a shop, people are bringing XPS machines in after 8 or 10 years and never had service, never had any problems, so they can last for a long time. I'm not saying if you have some issues it's impossible. Yes, the sheer number of these sold computers, just even if 0.5% fails, there's still some of us gonna experience that. And in a past video I said, like, I never had a failed fan in the past, maybe not at all, but in the past 20 years. I'm pretty sure in a Dell PC I never seen a failed fan. And yesterday I had to go out to the client, Dell Optiplex, the CPU fan failed and the machine was overheating over and over. It was Gen 8, so that PC was about 6 years old. In a business environment when it was running 24/7 every single day of the week, just ready to go. So it happens. And under the previous video, one of you commented that you have about 40 years of experience in the electronic field, and you smell something with your system, you think it's a pump. and I had no problem. I swapped this pump out probably like 5 to 10, probably 10 times easily with the different CPUs, just swapping this pump out with a tower cooler, the advanced, or with a standard, and no issues whatsoever, until one time I came down to my home studio. I'm running these tests and I smell not burned electronic smell, as you pointed out. It smells different, and I don't think it's a thermo grease, because I re-greased all these CPUs and a cold plate in a pump probably like, again, 15 times, and I don't think that's what I'm smelling. I think what I'm smelling is there must be a small crack or small leak or something, or pump internally, something, the pump side is plastic or something. It's almost like a sweet kind of smell. It's not antifreeze, that I wouldn't say that. I worked on cars before. I'm an electrician. I worked as an electrician for many years. I'm familiar when something is burning inside. It's a circuit board or it's a power supply. I can identify that it doesn't smell like that. So I don't know what it is, but this pump is not going back to the PC. So where is this pump from? It's from eBay. It was an open box items. I see quite a lot of people in different websites are complaining about the pump being noisy or loud. That was not the case, or has some concern that it's leaking or has a smell, and I just got hit by that. And again, in the past few videos, I was telling you that the fan is kind of lasts forever. I never had a problem. Of course, yesterday I had a failed fan, so it happens to me. It can happen to any of us at any time, but in a large number, Dell is cranking these computers out to a super affordable price. Like in the first video, I mentioned that this PC was cheaper, about 100 or not 100, 150 or $250 cheaper than going to PC Part Picker and picking out all the same low-end options, the cheapest parts available, and it was ready to go. And some of you said like, oh yeah, but it's still better because my power supply has 5-year warranty, my RAM has an unlimited lifetime warranty, my solid state has 3 years of warranty, the motherboard has I don't know, 3 years of warranty, my video card has 3 years of warranty. Yes, you do, and it's awesome. But in the same time, if you have any problem with the PC, especially with the 13, 14 gen Intel CPUs are having some issues, how do you know which one is? You need to have spare parts. Is that your CPU is causing the system to be unstable? Is it your RAM? Is it your power supply? Or is it a motherboard? Funny story, I had my custom PC upgraded earlier, I think last year. I bought everything at Micro Center and I absolutely love them. I just love to walk into the store. Everything there is on a shelf. I can touch it. I can ask the guys there, whoever building these computers in a large number, significantly higher number than I would ever do. And what's your experience? What kind of parts should I go with? And picked out the CPU, the motherboard, RAM, and the power supply and a cooler and everything else. And everything worked great until the second week when the sound card went out. I googled up, and apparently some of the sound cards on the motherboard are failing. I didn't know what to do. Like, do I have to take it back to Micro Center? Is Micro Center gonna give me a replacement motherboard right off the bat, or I have to send it back to the manufacturer? I ended up just going to Amazon and buying an external sound, an additional sound card, and just shoveling a PC, not to worry about. Like, if this would be a Dell PC, I would just chat or call Dell and say, hey, based on my warranty, it's remote troubleshooting, and then it's on-site warranty on this particular PC. Please come out and fix it. The next business day, they have to show up and fix the PC no matter what. I don't have to worry about if this is a motherboard issue, a CPU issue. That's what I have Dell, and they will take care of it. So there are a lot of pros and cons. Doesn't matter which way to go. But again, if you're somebody who wants the best performance out of the box, I obviously did not modify this system because I don't own this system. I would probably use a Dremel and just cut these posts off, and I could put any kind of third-party cooling in here. I would probably go with a fan. So instead of doing that, what I did is I removed this 14 Gen i9 and put it in my custom PC. And when I was running performance test, as you can see, my air cooler is twice of the size of this Dell stuff. My Noctua NH-D15 is about 2 times bigger than this Dell cooler, and this is a no joke cooler. This thing is about almost 2 pounds, close to 1 kilogram. So it's not a small size cooler, but what's built in the Dell throttling and have no options for you to manually overdrive your fan speed or change things out in a BIOS like in a custom built PC. I have all that stuff in here. I can draw a curve like at width, pinpointing that at this temperature I want the fan running on this speed, and all the way pull this out in a curve. With a Dell you don't have that, but also I can tip my system over anytime because it lets me do what I just wanted to do without making any sense or have any experience. So let me make some space in here, and actually let's just put back everything together. I like the way when everything is back in its place. Alright, so as you can see, I put everything back in a PC. It took me less than a minute to reinstall the hard drive, the caddy, the front fan, the little spacer, and a little support for a video card, and for the front bezel. Like I just absolutely love it as a technician. If there's any kind of video I would love to see, I would love to see how Dell, who is designing this PC, what's the thought process, and how do they come up with these simple solutions. I mean, I don't know if a high-end third-party case has any of this, but as for a tech, it saves so much time on site, and as less downtime my client has, as better for them, especially in a business environment. So let me show you my custom PC. It's an older case, and a component were upgraded recently. So just for something we can compare. So this is my custom PC case, and this is pretty much kind of a standard size when you are going down to custom gaming PCs. I'm not playing with the PC, I'm just editing videos for this channel, but as you can see, this is a Dell solution. This is what I have, and somehow the performance for a cooler, the space, it has to come from somewhere. So let me take my side cover off, at least the top, and as you can see, the Noctua cooler is just ginormous. So when I say with this cooler, when I put the 14th Gen i9 in this PC, just look at the difference size-wise. So technically I have 2 of these in here, so no wonder we are getting somewhere between 20 or 40% performance increase in a multi-core environment coming from this cooler to this cooler. Now, can you mount this thing in here? If you figure it out, I think it's M30, the bolts what you need to be able to secure this cooler. This would fit there, but I don't know if you want to venture into that. There's a lot of space and clearance requirement around the base of the CPU cooler. The water cooler option would probably easily work with that, a 240 millimeter. Maybe you can put this into that. Again, it's not my PC. I would love to see how, if you run down to the hardware store, get some bolts which I can just thread into those pre-existing studs, and then we can probably mount this thing in it, and then we would have a huge performance gain coming from here, as we can see, 20 to 40%. And the other side, so let me take my side cover off, which this is what you cannot do on a Dell, but you don't need to, because those posts are fixed. They are not removable. So when I take my side cover off, I have access to the back side of the PC, and this is where my back plate is visible, and it's here. So this is what's the back side of the Noctua CPU cooler. I can put these back plate in with the bolts. Every single one of them comes out. So when I take this apart and I remove my original CPU, when I did that, these bolts in here just fell between the motherboard and this plate and a back plate. So with a Dell, that's not an issue, because you don't have to hold these up. They are all fixed. So everything has a positive and a negative side. So let me move this out of the way and we can talk further. So what would I do? Kind of both, because I know where this PC is exactly gonna go. The client will be happy as it is. Not gonna tinker, doesn't need this huge ginormous case in a home office environment, doesn't want any extra stuff. He's gonna be happy as it is. For me, who's editing videos and doing some benchmarks and performance testing, I can measure things. It's obviously the third party, the custom, has a significantly larger performance increase in a multi-core environment. In a single core, they are very close head-to-head. I don't see a whole lot. This system is with a couple cores running. It's completely suitable and runs fine. Obviously, the throttling kicks in as soon as you're going to try to push all your available cores. And are you doing that? It's something, this question you have to answer to yourself. And again, with the Dell cooler options, yes, the third party is still doable. It requires some modification and some work. Do you want to modify your new system? Is it something you are looking to when you buy an OEM system, or are you just somebody who appreciates the things coming out as it is? It's good, it's solid, it's stable, you don't have to do anything with it. So if you have any question regards of any of this, is any of this stuff make sense or doesn't make any sense, please use the comment section. I will answer your questions best of my knowledge. I will include a link to Dell. Please don't make the same mistake as I did to go into Amazon and buying this third party or fake or counterfeited Dell cooler for $90 or $80 or $90. You can go to Dell.com and get this very same cooler for $56 straight from Dell. So I wouldn't do that again if I would have to redo this. I talked to Dell support. Dell confirmed that this XPS 8960 has this tower cooler. I'm going to include a link in the description, and this is what you can use and just go with it. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, if you just consider to do a like and a comment and maybe even subscribe, I would really appreciate it. I see you in the next video. Scott's out.